Let's take a quick walk down memory lane. Do you remember Russian collusion, right? You remember that Donald Trump didn't win the 2016 election. He colluded with Vladimir Putin and Russian propagandists and hackers to steal the election. The election was hacked, we were told, that he was an illegitimate president, that the whole thing was going to be revealed. And the evidence, of course, was a thing called the Steele Dossier. Remember the Steele Dossier? Yeah. The Steele Dossier was a bunch of information that was collected and put together by a former MI6 agent named Christopher Steele. Now, the entire thing was paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign. We didn't learn about that, of course, until about 2 years after the election and after the James Comey investigation and the Robert Mueller investigation and, everything that tried to paralyze the first Trump administration. We learned that Hillary Clinton had paid for the whole damn thing. And we also learned that pretty much everything in the Steele Dossier was, well, complete and total bullshit. So that's really it. And of course, Christopher Steele, well, he's completely disgraced and shamed and is shown to be the fraud that he is. So what's going on with Christopher Steele these days? Well, he is a fraud. He is disgraced. He's also incredibly stupid because he had the wise idea yesterday of going on Piers Morgan's show with a panel that included, I love that Scaramucci and Joe Walsh are there. They don't have much to say in this exchange. No, most of it is taken care of by Natalie Winters of Bannon's War Room and a guy named Scott Horton, who I'm pretty sure the two of them have a better working knowledge of the Steele Dossier than Mr. Steele himself. You're going to love this. Christopher Steele is the guy in the lower right-hand corner, right? This is the guy who single-handedly got paid a ton of money to ruin the Trump presidency, to ruin the Trump campaign. Didn't work, but then they used his work product to try to ruin the Trump presidency, to get him impeached, to get him arrested. You'd think that we would have seen more of him, right? By the way, can I just reiterate for a second that Hillary Clinton, when running for president, paid a foreigner to dig up and manufacture fake dirt on her political opponent. And then she approved that it would be peddled to the media and to the Justice Department and the FBI, who all knew that it was a fraud, and they still ran with it. And Hillary Clinton has never once had to do anything to pay for that. Just because, you talk about colluding with foreigners. Hillary Clinton literally colluded with foreigners to try to win the 2016 election. Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry, there's just so much to say about this. Christopher Steele, to gather and create the Steele Dossier, he paid off Russian agents, right, to say crap about Trump that wasn't true. So in other words, Hillary Clinton colluded with a British foreigner and tangentially colluded with Russians to win the election. So who was colluding with Russians? Hillary Clinton was colluding with Russians, and she still lost. All right, so now let's watch the panel with Piers Morgan. That's Natalie Winters, Scott Horton in the middle.
This liar framed him essentially for treason. And by the way, his primary sources were a Russian named Danchenko, who had been under investigation for being a Russian spy in the past. And the only reason they had dropped is because they mistakenly thought he left the country. And then his partner, an American named Dolan, who actually was a registered agent of Russia. And they were the two primary sources who made up all those lies that you and I just recited, Piers, that made it into Steele's dossier that they used. And none of it was true. Not the hacking of the DNC, not the Alpha Bank, not any of the Steele dossier. I'm amazed that this guy is willing to show his face in public right now when he was nothing but a washed up spy who hadn't had contacts in Russia for years by the time that he published that pile of lies.
And you know what? The same people that you ally yourself with here in the United States, you think you're so good at gathering intelligence. Last time I checked, it was the 51 intel agency officers, spies, who said that the Hunter Biden hard drive, which I've reported on firsthand, it's legitimate. You want to talk about president's sons who are involved in businesses with foreign countries? Well, I'd like to introduce you to Hunter Biden, right? When those 51 people that I'm sure that you know all too well, you were probably likely involved with the drafting of that letter, said that that was Russian disinformation. Well, it turned out that that was true, and shame on you for the last decade trying to inject the idea that smearing President Trump as a Russian agent or a Russian asset is somehow going to tank the MAGA movement. It's about putting America first, and the fact that you can still sit here and you have no actual evidence beside one random Russian meeting and, oh, we need to just continue to get more evidence. You're a complete political hack and grifter, and I wish the American political scene didn't have your voice in it.
And
how satisfying is that? That just feels good. And I love that he just sits there and has to take it. By the way, Scaramucci and Walsh up here, what are they like cardboard cutouts? Are they what exactly is going on there with Scaramucci and Joe Walsh? That is incredibly satisfying. You know what's even more satisfying? The extended cut of Natalie Winters doing that. There's actually more of this, and I wanted to sit back and sort of enjoy all of it, because when Natalie Winters gets wound up and lets loose, boy, nobody's safe, especially the author of the Russian dossier.
Christopher Steele probably wanted to go down in history as someone that colluded with the Clinton campaign to take down President Donald J. Trump. But I really think that you represent probably the ultimate grifter in the American political space. For you to even come on here, obviously you're trying to sabotage what President Trump is doing when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. But to sit here, what is it, nearly a decade after you tried to smear President Trump as a Russian asset, to then say, well, I think he's a Russian asset, but even though I'm really good at my job and create all these intelligence reports, it's just sort of a feeling that I have. I'm sorry, what stones do you even have left to turn over to try to corroborate your claim that President Trump is a Russian asset? You what? Weaponized FISA courts, surveillance, warrants, not just domestic spy agencies, international spy agencies too, the entire DNC apparatus, a bunch of political operatives and registered foreign agents here in the United States. The American people would really appreciate it if you would stop injecting your efforts to curtail and totally tank the America First movement by smearing anyone who doesn't want to get involved in forever wars or continue the needless and ceaseless dying of Ukraine and in Russia, just so you can sit there from your nice perch and just continue to defend the globalist world order by continuing to fan the flames of conflict in Russia and Ukraine. And you know what? The same people that you ally yourself with here in the United States, you think you're so good at gathering intelligence. Last time I checked, it was the 51 intel agency officers, spies, who said that the Hunter Biden hard drive, which I've reported on firsthand, it's legitimate. You want to talk about president's sons who are involved in businesses with foreign countries? Well, I'd like to introduce you to Hunter Biden, right? When those 51 people that I'm sure that you know all too well, you were probably likely involved with the drafting of that letter, said that that was Russian disinformation. Well, it turned out that that was true, and shame on you for the last decade trying to inject the idea that smearing President Trump as a Russian agent or a Russian asset is somehow going to tank the MAGA movement. It's about putting America first, and the fact that you can still sit here and you have no actual evidence beside one random Russian meeting and, oh, we need to just continue to get more evidence. You're a complete political hack and grifter, and I wish the American political scene didn't have your voice in it.
All right. Well, Christopher Steele, you're about to leave us because you're only here for this part of the panel. But your response finally to that?
My response is that I'm a professional intelligence officer and an expert on that part of the world. I'm not a politician.
Was the Hunter Biden hard drive Russian disinformation then, if you're such an expert?
Let him finish. Let him finish.
So I've been a loyal and close ally of the United States for probably most of the last 40 years. I've worked extremely closely with officials working for administrations, both Republican and Democrat. I have a very strong US client base for which I've worked and produced information over many years, none of whom have ever made any such allegation against me. And it's palpable nonsense to claim that I'm in POC with politicians.
I'm so glad the Clinton campaign didn't say that about you.
Well, I never worked for the Clinton campaign. I never had any contact with the Clinton campaign. That's the reality of it.
Oh, you're a
I
subcontractor.
think Fusion
It's the same
GPS
thing.
would beg to
I
differ.
produced a report for a partner firm in Washington, and the results of that report made me as an ally of the United States, as I would have expected an American counterpart to do, to report back in what I'd found to the contacts I had in the FBI at the time.
Okay.
That was the right thing to do, and I'm proud that I
Well,
did.
was
All
the
right,
Hunter
we're
Biden hard drive
gonna
Russian
leave it. We're gonna leave it
disinformation
there.
if
Look,
you're
I think
such an
everyone's had their
expert?
say
I
about
love
Christopher
his
Steele.
expert opinion.
Let's leave it there. I want to move on to other subjects. Christopher Steele, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. I'm going to let you go. Anthony.
Yeah, so there was one question still hanging there that Natalie asked. You're an expert. You're a big former agent. You've got all these contacts. You're supposed to be a big expert on Russia. So was the Hunter Biden laptop Russian disinformation? It's funny, he never answered that question. He turned tail, ran away because he's scared. He's scared of little Natalie Winters. What a big, bad James Bond type he is, huh? Oh, man, I can't wait for Kash Patel finally to go after the people who inflicted this on our nation. This is still one of the biggest scandals that we've ever lived through. And it ain't done. And the fact that Christopher Steele is out there and trying to recover, I think he's trying to do preemptive damage control, because I think, honestly, the FBI and the DOJ is finally going to hold people accountable for this. Let's pray.